Welcome back to the Green Yard. It is a cold, dreary afternoon here in the heart of the desert, Phoenix, Arizona. And today we're going to be planting my favorite apple, the Honeycrisp Apple Tree. Now, after doing some research on bare root trees, I have always thought that Honeycrisp apple trees would not grow here in Phoenix, or at least not produce fruit. But there are some dwarf varieties that I found that actually do okay in more of a moderate climate where they don't require quite so many chill hours. So today we have one of those trees here. It is going to be a dwarf Honeycrisp apple tree that I recently purchased. Very excited about it. And we're going to put it over here in our stone fruit portion of the yard, right next to our Asian plum and our bonanza peach tree. Now, in a recent video, I also planted the yellow plum, or yellow egg plum here. It's doing very well in its spot and seems to be enjoying itself there. And then, of course, we have our Granny Smith apple, as well as our pink lady apple. So one thing to know about apple trees is a lot of times they do require cross-pollination to be successful. Both the Granny Smith and the pink lady are more self-fertile, where they will pollinate themselves. I know for a fact with the pink lady because I did receive fruit in our previous house, which I just took that from. But some varieties, for example, that Honeycrisp variety that we're planting today, does require other apple trees in order to produce fruit. So once again, another reason why we're putting it over here in our stone fruit portion of the yard here, our bare root portion as well. So I'm gonna plant it here right in the middle. Bare root trees come in a package that really has no soil. It has some sawdust with it, and that's about it. So we're going to take it out of the package and plant it directly into the soil here. Now, most bare root trees, as I mentioned in my previous video with the egg plum, they don't require quite so much soil amendment as some of our tropical trees do, but I am still going to amend the soil at least a little bit in order to help them be more successful and potentially do better with rooting in the ground before the summer. So let's go ahead and start digging that hole and amending the soil for our Honeycrisp apple tree. Here we go. So I decided to put the Honeycrisp apple in this location, mainly because it's here with my other stone fruit trees, but also because I didn't really want to have 3 apple trees in a row. I would rather mix it up a little bit. I also chose this location because stone fruit trees here in the Phoenix desert, they do very well in the summer, receiving full sun all day long. So, so far our Asian pear tree, which is over here on your right, as well as our bonanza peach and our Granny Smith apple tree have done very well. They've all made it through our record-hitting summer last year, where we had more days over 115 than ever before. Very, very hot summer. They did great, took it in stride, grew a lot, and stay green the entire time. So one of the main benefits of having those stone fruit trees is that they do well in our summer heat in full sun. They do go dormant in the winter, as you can see, so you don't get to have that pretty, evergreen foliage in the winter. It is bare bones where it's just stick, but it's a fair trade-off, especially considering the fruit that you get. So we're gonna plant this guy right between these two here. So I actually have a perfect spot, which is basically right where it is as we speak. So we're gonna go, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna dig through this, make that hole, and then embed that soil. All right, so I have the hole dug for that Honeycrisp apple tree. Just started sprinkling a little bit on me here. And you'll notice with this hole here, it's deep, but not quite as deep as I would with some of the tropical trees. I usually go another foot or so with those guys. And once again, that's just because with the bare root trees, they're a little bit more acclimated to our native soil here. So they don't need necessarily that same type of soil modification in order to do successful. Now, I'm still going to put a whole bunch of wood chips around, sulfur, compost, make sure that I'm creating that really beneficial soil, but it doesn't necessarily need it right away when I put it in the ground, especially since it's still winter and it's gonna be dormant probably for another month or so before it starts waking up. So let's go ahead now, and we're going to go ahead and grab some of that healthy soil, that garden in-ground soil, and mix it together to make a nice base for this Honeycrisp apple tree. Alright, so I went ahead, mixed the soil. The soil's prepared, it's ready to go. With bare roots, like I explained in my last video, with that yellow egg plum, the bare roots, they come without soil. So there's no root ball, it's just roots to plant. So you definitely want to make sure that you fill it all the way to the top, or at least as high as you want that tree to be. So here, I filled it all the way to the top. I don't want it to be below grade. And now, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna open up my Honeycrisp apple tree. So the package here has this wire on it. I'm gonna go ahead and untwist this wire to remove the plastic base from this tree. Maybe I'll remove the wire. Let's see. Yep, there we go. So the wire's been removed now. Set that off to the side. Now I'm going to take this plastic bag and I'm going to go ahead and take this off here. And just like before, they pack this in sawdust. So you want to, keep the sawdust if you can, because that sawdust can end up being some mulch and help along with that mulch there. So I'm going to definitely keep that sawdust, keep unraveling this tree here, being somewhat careful with it, and there, voila, look at that. So here is my Honeycrisp apple tree. You can see on here that it is very bare root. In fact, all the sawdust came off except for the roots here. So I'm going to go ahead, put this in the soil, cover it with the sawdust and some mulch. And I want to go up to where the root flare is. So it looks like the root flare is up here. So that's where I'm going to plant it here. So go ahead and move the soil, make your room for your tree here. This one I'm planting a little bit deeper than the yellow egg plum. The yellow egg plum had a shallower root flare. So that looks pretty perfect actually. So we're going to go ahead and cover it up to where that root flare is, which is right about there, a little bit higher. Perfect. Now I want to make sure it's straight. So I'm going to take a step back for a second, look at it, make sure it's straight here in the hole, which it is now. And then I'm just going to cover it up the rest of the way with my soil. And then I'm going to take the sawdust that I have here and just use it as mulch over top, just like I did with that yellow egg plum. So we're going to go ahead and spread this over the top as some mulch. It's going to start breaking down, creating a really good healthy soil there. Perfect. And now I have to build my berm. around the outside to make sure that it holds the water in when I water it in the summer. Right now it doesn't necessarily need some water. I'm gonna water it just to get it going. But once that happens, you know, once every couple weeks should be good for it to water right now until it comes out of dormancy. But in the summer it needs water practically every other day to stay healthy. So build that berm so it really gets a deep soak when I do water it. So let's go ahead and build that berm here. Take my shovel, grab some of this extra dirt that I have, and just start piling around the outside. Now that my berm is all set, I'm gonna go grab some mulch and also some compost. Layer the mulch all the way around and then the compost over top, and then of course sprinkle some sulfur when I'm all done. Make sure we get that proper pH for this tree. So here we go. All right, so I'm back with my wheelbarrow of mulch and my bucket of compost here. So I'm going to spread it evenly across the whole area, including on the berm, so that way it starts decomposing, creating that nice healthy soil that's going to feed the tree. So let's go ahead and spread that, and then we'll go ahead and put some sulfur on it as well, and I'll show you spreading that sulfur around. So now that the mulch is there, I'm going to spread it around, leaving about a 6-inch diameter ring around the tree trunk. And then we take the compost and once again just shake it around here. Make sure the whole area gets covered in compost. There we go. All right, perfect. And last but not least, we need to put our sulfur on it. So our sulfur is over here. So for the sulfur, the local nursery that I go to sells an agricultural grade sulfur. It's called Tiger 90 CB, which I keep here in the shed to keep it dry. And so what I do is I just take my red cup full and I just take a scoop of that sulfur out of my red cup, and then I walk back over here to where the tree is located, and we're just going to go ahead and spread around that sulfur, making sure it's covering everywhere. So see, just spread around. Recommended dosage is 3 tablespoons per square feet. So I like to add just a little bit more than that, because I know it does need that acidic soil, and this soil has not been treated at all for any sort of pH level or change. So I definitely want to make sure that it gets treated healthy and makes that tree and that soil healthy and happy. So here we go. Here is our dwarf Honeycrisp apple tree put in the ground here in the end of January of 2021. We'll see what happens to it in the future. As always, stay green, plant lots, and of course, have fun. We'll see you next time.